Hello and welcome. I am Mr. Murphy, and in this video we are going to be completing our power standard number 18. Power standard 18 is a very large power standard. There's multiple steps to it, and what we've done is we've looked at how to find the vertex of a parabola in standard form and how to find the equation for the line of symmetry. We talked about how to find the x-intercepts, how to find the y-intercepts. Now we're going to take all of those pieces that we've learned to find, and we're going to put them together to graph a parabola. So like I said, we're going to be looking at all these different parts. So if you haven't done so already, you're going to want to make sure that you watch those previous videos before watching this video, because all those other parts are going to be necessary to be able to know how to graph a parabola. So let's look at what we've talked about already. We've talked about the fact that the vertex of a parabola is in the form hk, and h, remember, or in this particular video, we're going to base it on that second method of finding the vertex using that shortcut of the opposite of b divided by 2a. Remember, you could also find the vertex by completing the square. It's just a little bit longer of a process, but for the purpose of this video, we'll use that shortcut. So remember, to find the first half, we take the opposite of b divided by 2a. That only gives us half the vertex. To find the other half of the vertex, we have to plug that value for h into the equation to figure out what the value for k would be, or the y value of the vertex. Then we found the line of symmetry is just x equals whatever h is. And we found the x-intercept by plugging 0 in for y, and then using the quadratic formula to find that x, or to find out what those x-intercepts would be. And finally, to find the y-intercept, that's very easy. You replace x with 0, which essentially just gives us a value for c that's in our standard form. That's your y-intercept. So let's piece those together, like I said, to be able to graph this equation, y equals x squared plus 4x. So we're going to find the vertex, the line of symmetry. We'll go ahead and just throw that on the graph, and then we'll find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. And then, like I said, we'll piece those all together to be able to graph this parabola. So let's look at that example. Okay, so the first step is to find the vertex. We're going to take the opposite of b divided by 2a. b in this case is 4. So the opposite of 4 is a negative 4. A in this case is 1, so 2 times 1 is just 2. So we just found the first half of our vertex is negative 2. To find the other half, the k value of our vertex, I put negative 2 in my equation. So it's going to be negative 2 being squared plus 4 times negative 2. Well, negative 2, when you square it, becomes a positive 4. And 4 times negative 2 is a negative 8. And 4 plus negative 8 is negative 4. So our vertex is at the coordinate negative 2, negative 4. Okay, the next step is to, well, let's just go ahead and graph that actually. So negative 2, negative 4 would be right here. So then the line of symmetry is going to be a vertical line going through where x is negative 2. So remember, that purpose of that line of symmetry is to see that our graph is going to be symmetrical. It's going to be the same thing on both sides of that line of symmetry. If we were to reflect it over that line, it would be a mirror image on the other side. So the next step is to figure out, well, what's your x-intercept? The x-intercept, remember, is where we replace y with 0. So if I replace y with 0, I get 0 equals x squared plus 4x. So I'm going to use the quadratic formula here. So my value for a is 1. My value for b is 4. In this case, my value for c is 0. So it's going to be the opposite of b, so negative 4 plus or minus, let's see, so it's going to be x equals opposite of b. So opposite of b is negative 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So 4 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 0. And it's that whole thing divided by 2a, so 2 times 1. Well, what happens on the inside of this radical here, 4 squared is 16, but then negative 4 times 1, even though that's negative 4, it doesn't matter, because if we multiply that times 0, it's 0. So we end up with just square root of 16 here, all divided by 2. So that means your x-intercepts are going to be negative 4 plus the square root of 16, which is 4, divided by 2. And then we'll have negative 4 minus 4, square root of 16, which is 4, all divided by 2. So your x-intercepts are going to be at negative 4 plus 4 is 0, divided by 2 is 0. And the other one is negative 4 minus 4 is going to be negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So our two x-intercepts are going to be at 0, 0, and at negative 4, 0. To find the y-intercept, remember the y, or let's graph those. So 0, 0, and negative 4, 0. And if you notice, if I reflect those points over each other, they would match up. So far so good. I know I did those correct. So now to find the y-intercept is just whatever the value for c is. Well, in this case, it's 0. And if you notice, your y-intercept is there at 0, 0. Now, we always want to have at least 5 points when we go to graph. Right now, I have 3. So to find out what our fourth and fifth points are going to be, we're going to pick a point closest line of symmetry. In this case, let's say if we use negative 1 as your value for x. And we're going to plug that in our equation to figure out what y would be. Now, our equation, going back to the original, is it's y equals negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1. Well, negative 1 when you square it is a positive 1, and 4 times negative 1 is negative 4, and a positive 1 plus a negative 4 would be a negative 3. So our coordinate that we would graph would be negative 1, negative 3. Now we can reflect that over the line of symmetry, and we have a total of 5 points. So here would be your parabola. So that's how we graph this. I know it looks kind of jumbled up here with the amount of space that we had, but just piece together all of the different things that we've done so far in this power standard, and you'll be just fine. So I want you guys to try this one on your own. Y equals x squared plus 2x minus 3. I want you to graph that by finding the vertex, the x-intercept, the y-intercept. Like I said, find all those pieces, put them on the grid, and then graph it. So pause the video and hit play when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, let's see what you did here. So to start out with, to find your vertex, it's the opposite of b divided by 2a. b in this case is 2, so the opposite of that would be a negative 2. A is 1 again, so we would have 2 times 1, which is just 2. And negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So the h, or the x value of vertex, is negative 1. To find the k value, we're going to replace negative 1 in there for x. So we'll have negative 1 being squared plus 2 times negative 1 minus 3. Well, that ends up being, well, negative 1, when you square it, becomes a positive 1. 2 times negative 1 is a negative 2 minus 3. Well, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. So our vertex is at the point negative 1, negative 4. Next, to find the x-intercept, we replace y with 0. So now we're going to use the quadratic formula. So it would be, my value for a would be 1 again, b is 2, c is negative 3. So to find the x-intercept, it's going to be the opposite of b, so negative 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 3. All that divided by 2a, and a is 1 again. So now we're going to simplify what's under the radical. When you do that for this problem, 2 squared is 4. Then we have negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. And negative 4 times negative 3 is a positive 12. And 12 plus 4 would be 16. All divided by 2. So square root of 16 is 4, so we'd end up with negative 2 plus 4, all divided by 2, and negative 2 minus 4, all divided by 2. So your x-intercepts are going to be, well, negative 2 plus 4 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1, and your other x-intercept is negative 2 minus 4, which is negative 6, and negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So your x-intercepts would be at the point 1, 0, and negative 3, 0. Let's graph those. 1, 0, negative 3, 0. Well, we forgot to put the line of symmetry here, so that would be helpful to see that, sure enough, these are reflected over that line of symmetry. They would match up, so far so good. And the y-intercept is going to be the c value, which is negative 3. So it's where x is 0, y would be negative 3. Put a point there, reflect that over the line of symmetry, and now we have our parabola. There you go. So hopefully you got that parabola as your answer. If not, make sure that you go back and figure out where your mistake was. Well, there you have it. We are finally done with power standard number 18. We have figured out successfully, hopefully, how to graph a parabola using the vertex, the line of symmetry, the x-intercepts, and the y-intercept. So hopefully you understood all of that and were able to piece it all together. And with that, good luck on those future power standards.